Sure. All right. This is a hybrid public meeting. The public can attend in person or electronically. The information provided in this agenda contains the link to the access meeting electronically. The public may view the video recording of the meeting on YouTube at Town of Columbia CT. Please allow 48 business hours after the meeting for the video to be published. For public input, please email your comments to publicinput@columbia.org prior to 24 hours before the meeting. Rules of conduct for the hybrid meeting, virtual meeting. This is a web-based call, so we are operating under the following procedures. This session is being both video and audio recorded. Commissioners and staff will generally remain on mute except when speaking or voting, and will generally be keeping the video on themselves or throughout the meeting. If a member of the public creates an audio or video disruption, they may be manually ejected from the meeting upon recommendation of staff or the chair. For public input before the meeting, please email your comments to publicinput@columbia.org within 24 hours before the meeting. All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As a citizens, anything in the inboxes? Seeing none, we'll move right on. Approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Do I have a motion by anybody?
I'll move.
We'll give everybody time to read it if they have it.
Yes. Second,
Arthur moved, we need a second.
I second.
All in favor? Arthur, you moved to do what?
To approve the minutes
To,
of the
as
last meeting,
as presented.
as presented, yes.
Okay. Judy, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Extension?
I abstain.
Abstentions. Okay. All right, correspondence, any questions, correspondence? Nope, all right. Old business, update for the HVAC upgrades for the school. You want to handle that?
Well, you can go to page 2 and see the bids as they came in. We were expecting $6 million. The low bidder was $7,417,000. Next, $8,118,000, then $8,223,000, then $8,500,000, and then it got to a whopping $8,818,000. So we were all shocked at where the numbers came in from. The business or the manager we hired to run the project manager felt that because the whole state is doing this and the limited amount of vendors are out there and advanced timeframes, we're all meeting to get all these projects done by 2025 December. And the shortage of materials and inventory, and on and on and on. Cost those kind of increases. So right now what we're doing is we're trying to have set up, and then Bev will go over this balance sheet in more
Alright,
detail.
so are we doing only vendors, sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, go right ahead. You got a
I was
question?
just asking, so what, are we only doing vendors, can we do outside vendors outside of Connecticut, or are we only using Connecticut vendors, or we've done
This was
everybody?
an open bid, vendors could bid it
At any level?
from anywhere.
Okay.
So it's a sealed bid, we got 5 vendors. Then maybe before we get into what was authorized by the building committee, you wanna go over your spreadsheet?
Sure. So,
Okay, so it's 11/19/2024, Town of Columbia High School Improvement Project spreadsheet. So it all looks like this.
This one?
So originally, through the grant application, it was proposed that based on the engineer's information, that the cost of the project would be $6,078,000. With a 52.14% reimbursement rate, the town was awarded a grant of $3,169,000 approximately. All to the penny. The town also appropriated with 3 town meetings, $1,073,600 to get the project started so we can hire the architect and the project manager, commission agent, as well as order all the electrical switchgear equipment to get the electrical upgrade at Porter School. With that being said, right now, from the appropriations, there is right now about $360,000 left over available for any other things that need to be done before we get any financing done. There is a balance on the purchase orders of about $420,000. Currently, the town has spent about $294,000. So, with that being said, we found out yesterday that because of the way the appropriations were motioned, what we've allocated out of the general fund cannot be included in the bond. So it's spent, it's spent. We can't do anything about it. So now we have to add that into the bonding. It does save us on bonding costs because we're not gonna have a higher bond. I mean, but fortunately, the fund balance was in good shape and it still is. And we can, I guess, take the hit or whatever. But that being said, the bottom of the spreadsheet is showing kind of a synopsis based on what was pulled together by the project manager, including the potential contractor who was the lowest bid. So we're looking at, we're going to need probably about $5.2 million, either from the general fund or for financing or bonding, or a combination of the 3. Either way, it's less than what the town had approved, which was $3,396,000 back in November 2023. So
more
we're,
than,
so we are short.
you said
It's
it's
more.
It's more than,
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just reverse what we said.
yeah, reverse what I said. So originally the town meeting, we appropriated $3,396,000, so we need at least another, right now, we're estimating at least $1.8 million
Additional.
additional. That's to cover all the projected costs, including contingencies. You'll see on here, there's some contingency costs on there and all that, so after looking at this, talking to the bond council, the financial analysts and all that, we're probably gonna recommend $5.5 million, up to $5.5 million appropriation and funding costs to make sure we cover everything and won't have to go back to the town. Doesn't mean we're going to actually bond that or finance it, but to cover it, we have to go back. So right now, Mark's working with them. We're gonna have a meeting with them tomorrow to try to get the resolutions all written up to cover all this. The HVAC committee did vote to proceed without going back to bid. There's a potential if we go back to bid, we're probably gonna lose the grant. If we downscale, we have to report that to the state. it will mean less money coming in because they're not gonna change the scope and
So
lower.
we can't go back out to bid again?
You can,
You
but there's a chance that we're probably gonna lose the grant because this grant was based on, well, that I'd have to go back to the state on.
The bigger concern of going back out to bid was the low bidder was 600,000 lower than anyone else. And we don't think the low bidder will come back more than, he's gonna increase his deficit. He left money on the table. So our concern is, you go out back at the bid, you're not getting lower than 7.4 million.
How was the estimate so wrong?
The,
I'm sorry if I missed that.
the job manager of the project feels that because there's only so many vendors that can do this, and the whole state is working on it, and the whole state has a deadline in December 2025, and we're requiring nights and weekends to do the project, and there aren't materials, there's delays in materials, delays in everything. That it's a bidder's market, I mean, a buyer's market, the vendor's market, they're in the driver's seat. So prices have gone up much higher than they would have been last year. Or maybe 2 years ago.
And what if we don't do it until 2026?
Well, you
bid.
lose the state, you
bond.
lose the 3.1 million you get from the state.
The grant requires it be done
By December 2025, which means we can't delay it all, but we have no hope of getting it done. Right now, we still have a hope of getting it done.
Is the state gonna stay at 52.14%?
No.
If it's a new number?
It's not the new number. They will not increase their contribution, they're basing it upon our application alone.
Okay, so they're gonna be stuck at 3,160,000.
That's fixed.
All right, so what we're looking at is an additional 1.8 million.
Right.
Okay.
And it has to go out to a referendum, so it's up to the voters. And we're going to have a special meeting, a board of selectmen meeting to set the legal notice, make a postcard, approve the postcard out to the voters. And they're setting a town meeting, explanatory town meeting to adjourn the referendum. Town meeting will be December 10th, and the referendum will be scheduled for December 17th. And then voters decide whether it's yes or no, up or down.
And if they vote, then we have no. We have no
If they
say.
vote, if they vote
FiPAC.
down, then it's done, then
If
basically.
they vote it down, the project is squashed until we revive it, if we do.
So the only reason we need to know about this is because we might need to factor in another 1.8 million.
Into
Come off
our,
the undesignated fund unexpectedly.
or into the, we're gonna to know we're budgeting for bonding and interest costs in the
This is for
2025
purposes of bond,
of bond.
which doesn't, I believe it does not affect the bond, right?
What does,
The increase, it does not affect the bond, like we're still within that margin. It's not outside.
no, we have to increase our bond authorization through the referendum. Right now, we haven't authorized enough money to complete.
Well, I know that, I'm saying like, but if we increase bond authorization, it's not gonna affect our rate.
And we're working on our financial policies, see those later in the packet, so that we can rate better in our bond interest rate by having fiscal policies in place. If we do go out to bond.
Anybody with questions?
Too much just to think about it.
The scope of the work being done. The 7.4, is there a document which lists exactly what that is done, and what the people are expecting to be done? And
The bid spec is available online, and we didn't put the actual bid answers online.
Those were those were in the amendment, so yes. Is that what you mean?
No, I mean, the actual vendor that we picked, Savmar, their response is not published, right? Their bid document,
Their bid document, no.
okay. So we have it in our office. We want to look at what we're getting for $7.1 million.
I'm sure people are gonna ask me as an individual, what are we spending the money on, what are we gonna get?
So
What
before
is the
we
specific?
set up this town.
So I'd
meeting,
like to be familiar with it.
We'll
I know
put that
I'm gonna get
document,
that
we'll make that document available.
Well, we already did the.
Wouldn't that just be the RFP?
Yeah, but that wasn't brought over by
But this-
Silver.
this-
so-
The bid document says what the labor costs are of every component, it breaks it down into
I'll
labor
just
and
follow
materials.
this and then-
We're getting an
Oh,
HVAC kit for the school, that's what we're getting.
No, there was a lot redoing the entire electrical system,
Oh,
what it's gonna upgrade, and how it's gonna be.
I think they already did.
Yeah, that's
revised,
underway.
like, that's already, they've already done that.
We don't have a.
Now we're
idea.
just bidding on the installation of the
show that
big
you can look
HVAC,
at
so
the
what
bid.
happened was,
The bid,
they,
the
the
bid
state
specs.
pushed all this stuff
Public
through.
RFP.
And
Yeah.
they made all these adjustments, and now the
Okay.
contractors are like, well,
They
we
are
have
individuals. so
all
now-
these people who physically have to get done within this brief period of time, and they can just give you whatever price you want, you're gonna have to agree to it, or that's it.
Now, does this bonding include insurance for the construction company doing that? If they default, all of a sudden in this,
They buy the
in
insurance.
this,
Well, they had to put up a bond
Yeah,
when they.
they have a
bid.
performance
So we have a performance bond,
okay,
that's in their price.
But the town will be paying for a builder's risk.
Right, we'll have to add to our insurance builder's risk once the project starts. Of what the value of this project is,
you know, if they go belly up, the bond,
Why are we paying for the builder's risk?
because it's on our insurance. They have a security bond, but we also need to include the risk of the entire project in case.
Having just gone through all those capital projects I was working on for this day, we made all of the construction companies produce the builder's risk.
This is for
Sometimes,
our protection, it's for the
Right.
town's protection, if something happens, but the builders will also have their own policy too.
So we have an insurance to cover us if like slip and fall or.
Well, like the biggest loss in the history of Kerma was a high school, or it might have been a middle school, where the contractor on the roof was cheating to get flashing up and using a blowtorch and lit the roof on fire, and then neglected to call 911 for quite a while he was calling his boss, and the school burned down. So,
that was going on.
yeah, I think it was a $20 million hit. So that was
There's
bad.
no fire insurance,
Well,
or is it?
the contract was written wrong, it did not include,
It was a subcontractor.
the subcontractor did it, and they had indemnified the subcontractors in the contract, so they had no liability. So we're fighting it in court.
What time is that?
I forget,
It's not our town, we're getting insurance.
it was bad.
it's not terribly expensive.
Well, so this basically, this is just to let us know that this is gonna happen,
Right, this is, you've authorized,
and this is going to the town to vote
the
on.
building committee is authorized to expend the money that's been
Yeah.
authorized by the town. So they were authorized up to the $6,078,000.
Right.
They're not authorized to the $8,376,000. So
So which one are we going, I mean,
you're,
which one is everybody leaning, I'm assuming. we're-
well, right now, we need an extra, to complete the project, we need 5.2 million, 5,207,000.
Okay.
And
That's what's going with the lowest bidder, which is, this is the recommendation of the HVAC, but there's no contract with them until we get to the town meeting.
so we had authorization for 3 million something. It's
Yeah,
not enough. So
Yeah.
you-
so we have to, so we're going for the lowest bidder, right? Alright, so why are we asking for authorization for up to 8?
Well, we're not, we're authorizing the 5 million because we have a 3
Yeah, no,
million,
but like,
69,000 grant.
Okay, so you're not authorizing all the way up to maximize, you're authoring just to the lowest bid.
And right now, we're in bond council,
Those are the
are we,
other-
are we authorizing the entire part of the project minus the grant, or are we authorizing just what we need?
That's what I'm
So
asking.
I assume you have to do the whole thing,
I'm fine
because
with-
there's, you don't get the grant till after you've paid, so we need the money to pay. And yet the grant is the reimbursement, right?
Right. The grants are reimbursement.
Grant is reimbursement, but we pay with short-term financing before we bond. We don't
Oh, yeah.
bond until we're done.
Oh,
So we have to include in our cost short-term financing while we get ready to bond.
short term from like a bank.
Right.
From
A short-term note.
loan shark.
I'm not running the account.
A payday loan. Park Street Park.
60% interest, don't worry. It's just days.
You just put on your credit card, think of the miles.
It's fine.
It'll be
I'll think
fine.
about that. Anyways, so we're authorizing up to,
I'll find that out tomorrow. We have a conference call with bond council to figure out.
There's always gonna be overruns, we shouldn't.
Well, yeah.
And we have overruns built into this. We have contingency. We just want to make sure we don't get to the end of this and have not authorized enough.
Okay, so actually it goes to a town referendum and then
go.
the town meetings anyway.
And after it's approved, we'll know what the bond, the debt service is gonna be. We'll have a,
You know, before the town meeting on the 10th, we'll have run debt service charts for everybody, so you can see.
because
What it's gonna look
my
like.
expectation is we're gonna have to reduce the budget in other areas to make up for that debt service. So whatever it ends up being, we need to know that so we can look at other places to trim to make up for the total debt service.
As opposed to raising taxes?
Yeah.
Where the hell, well, that's a discussion that has to come down the road.
Yeah, that's more of a
So that's
tribal.
why I'm saying I'd like to know what it's gonna be so we can have that conversation.
But this isn't even gonna hit the next fiscal year budget.
It could.
Oh, it could. Oh,
It could
The
hit
short-term financing.
oh, yeah.
So we'll have to factor that in
There's
first.
a
for
potential
twenty twenty-five, the
Yeah.
budget for 2025.
Going, it could
The
be
bonding will be in 26.
2026. So say maybe in that spring, there's a potential we could have a
So
bond.
you could hit the 25-26 budget,
Great,
half of 26.
great.
Half of
No,
26.
just because I can't see the number, what did we originally go for approval for the town for funding?
3,396,250.
That was based on the proposed, the idea
That's
that
the
it
that
was
was the
6 million.
resolution.
Okay. Okay, I got it, thank you.
They were asking, they were trying to, it was 6,078,215, that was the projected cost.
I think the resolution was 6.1 million, something like that, but the bonding and funding was like 3.396.
Basically $1,400,000 off.
$1,000,008.
Something kind of going on, so.
Yeah, there's nothing we can do about
Yeah, it's nothing, we're fully
it. It's
out.
gotta go to the town.
Yeah, no, I get it.
All right, any other questions on? Shall we move on?
How much time do we have to?
All right, hearing no more questions at the moment, we're gonna move on to new business. 2025 FiPAC meeting schedule.
This was the original resolution.
I was telling Bev to keep going. She was trying to find it.
Need a motion to that.
Has everybody looked at them? I'm pretty sure it's the same schedule that we have now, the third Wednesday.
I know that we adopt the schedule as presented.
Okay.
Discussion? Here, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Hearing none, motion passes. So we will adopt it as presented. 8.2, elections of officers.
Well, I think I don't know if it's by January, February, I think you have to vote on a chair and a
Vice Chair.
vice chair again. I don't know if it's annual or after each election or something like that, so this was just put on the agenda to start thinking about it,
Oh, okay.
not to do it tonight, but that's thought process.
In the election,
Yeah, so I'm not,
let's read the charter.
yeah,
We don't have any new people this. Yeah, because it wasn't a municipal election.
no, so just,
I think it has to be at every municipal election.
yeah,
Yeah,
it was,
so we
it was
don't really
confusing, but I
have-
figured just put on the agenda so that we don't forget about
We'll
it.
find out.
Yeah.
All right. 23-24 financial updates.
It's in your packet, this lovely other sheet. Just in a nutshell, this is just a summary of reconciling the fund balance, so at the end of the year, right now, we're looking at the fund balance is $3,018,000, which is about 15%. I can never find the color one, it's the color one. Oh, it's a color, okay, good.
They got it.
Thank you.
So, I'm pretty sure that's a pretty firm number. The auditors have come in, they haven't completed the audit yet, but, I'm not projecting that's gonna get changed. However, I just want to bring to everyone's attention that we have already taken out $499,000 this year. And with adjustments at the bottom, you see some adjustments to the fund balance. That right now, we're looking at about 3.4 million as of currently. Oh, because there was a reduction in stuff of other things. Sorry, it's been long since I looked at this, so, currently we're looking at about 17% fund balance rate, which is, it went up a little bit just because, remember last year we took 1.3 million. So that got shifted now because we only took like 375 out, so that went back into undesignated money, so we're doing okay. This is no prediction of revenues yet this year, and we haven't seen any overspending, although, Mark's working on, there's some projects coming up. We are looking at to finish out the American Relief Funds by the end of December. There's about $40,000. We have a couple projects we're gonna put into it. We'll know that by maybe early December. Because we don't wanna lose that money or pay back the federal government any of that money. And there's been some repairs coming unanticipated to the building, so we're getting quotes and all that too, so we'll definitely update you on that, but hopefully we can stay within budget on some of this stuff and then just budget other things for next year, so. But yeah, so we're doing okay.
Actually, the 17% is pretty healthy fund balance.
We're still doing
I
okay.
think we're doing really well.
So the 499, we had anticipated that was something we had built in. Were we talking about the fact that we needed like $500,000 to do the
So,
HVAC project?
so last year we
In our budget?
did 499 and then we did another 75.6. It was taken out of last year, which is noted up here, and then when they put up the commissioning agent and trying to get the HVAC equipment, it was decided to go back to the town for another 499,000 just to keep the project going and any other unanticipated costs before we get a full decision and going out to bid, so. So this was, again, nothing that was planned, it was just came up in the spring that we needed more money for that project.
And this was approved by the town meeting?
Three of them.
So the electrical equipment had to be purchased way in advance because the lead times are huge on electric equipment. It's the biggest backlog in the manufacturing.
200 days or
I
something.
remember that we talked about this, I thought we didn't build it into the budget.
We got some.
I thought, we were talking about that this was coming, I thought we knew this.
I think the second 499 wasn't anticipated.
The first.
We were still waiting
Oh,
to hear back
also
from
it's the same number, okay.
yeah, because it was done twice, we were waiting for the architects to get their information back to us, because we couldn't go out to bid and not knowing what was going on, and then we decided to go get the electrical. There was a-
We pulled that out of the bid.
Gets into this, and we still have to spend another 7.5?
Yes,
So it's really eight,
8.5.
over eight. I could build a school for that.
So-
I know, I'm kidding. In the private sector, you could build 2 schools for that, but. Tuition all of our children to, choke for that.
Well, I don't know if you heard, they now have RAM as a third option.
That happened.
Last-
It was just announced, that the Board of Ed authorized RAM.
Right now
So
it's
now
only
we're
the
gonna have
ninth graders.
3 sets of buses?
No,
Well, they still, not extra buses, I guess.
They figured they
They
would.
said somehow it's not increasing the busing cost. I don't know how.
Okay. Can the middle school kids go or just the high school?
It's high school. Right now it's just the ninth graders.
No, but I imagine our middle schoolers might like that. Some of them might prefer to have a larger campus to work from.
I do have a quick question. Now, I've been hearing that an option for Columbia kids in the future.
There it is now.
Yes, it is now.
It
As
is
of-
now.
And I guess what I'm wondering is, I suspect that RAM is cheaper
They
than,
must have,
it's not
Nope,
Is it more expensive?
it's about the same,
about the same.
same as Bolton and
And what
Hillsborough.
about busing? Did that can we save money if kids get bused to RAM?
No.
No?
It shouldn't be increased, but they said they're gonna use the buses that they have, so in the hub, I guess. They have a hub, so they'll just, whatever kids need to go around, they're just gonna shift
Okay.
around the kids. No additional buses.
Okay.
So we'll put them on the Bolton bus and drop them off.
while it's still moving.
As they drive
No,
by.
it's, yeah,
Do you know more about this? I mean, this is the
No,
first we're hearing about it.
I
little
think,
surprised.
Yeah, I was
just heard
Board of
about it
Education
earlier this
was-
week at the fiscal policy meeting.
Yeah.
But that's what was announced. this
Yeah.
week.
So
I
that-
was just reading. it.
But I mean, I imagine that this didn't get worked out in like 24 hours. Or how long it was in the works, but I thought this was something that the
Did they start talking
board
about
would have told us
last year?
about. It just
I think
seems
this has
like.
been-
They've been talking about it for a while.
Long
The
time.
the question was, my understanding, because I was sitting in on the financial policy thing for the Board of Ed. They were talking about this for a while. The big question was whether or not it was gonna be an increase in cost compared to the others and what that would be. And then when it came back, that it was basically dead even. There was no difference really between Bolton, E.O. Smith and Ram. You know, it was just a matter of fact complaining that. That was my understanding. For what I read.
Anyway, I think it's a good thing that Columbia has another option for them. I'm very familiar with the RAM on the juvenile review board. And most of the kids that go through the board, other than Columbia, are the RAM kids. And there's staff from RAM that are on the board too. And I've been really impressed with their knowledge and their dedication and so on. So I think it's a good thing.
All right. We'll move on. Fiscal policy committee update, financial policy.
Financial policy.
Financial, that's you.
To keep it separate from fiscal policy.
Yes.
Clear in people's mind. So I started meeting at the end of September. The committee is myself, Stephen, and Art. And the overall purpose, just so everybody's thinking of it in the same way, is to put in place the policies for managing the aspects of budgeting and capital improvement that will influence our credit rating to be more positive and are crucial when you're seeking funds. So we didn't have any of these policies specifically in place prior to this, but most towns do, and or many towns do. So our consultant, our bonding consultant, and our staff acquired policies from several surrounding towns. We reviewed all of them and settled on the ones we thought were a good match for what we needed and size of the town and those kinds of things, the structure of our town government. So we're basically working from those documents and revising and fitting them into our and what we have. Well, actually, there's 4 major policies that we have to address, which is listed capital improvement, fund balance, debt management, and what do we call that? What's the name of that one?
God, I gotta go through my notes.
Oh, okay. You remember the policy about, it's the having in place a set of
Debt
policy.
management?
No, the post bonding, having
Yeah,
reporting,
Yeah.
that's not part of that management, it's a whole separate thing. So having in the tracking and reporting
Cash management.
policies in place, post bonding. So yes, it was in the first 7 minutes ago. So since we're not in post bonding time period yet, we're starting to work on these 3. I consider this to be a rough draft, again, because we pulled from different places, and I'm not sure that we were able to pull it into perfect parallel, even with our government structure. So basically, the purpose of this is to acquaint you with the work that we're doing and the topics that need to be covered in this work, and sort of just an update to where we are. This is not the final version, obviously, just put it together.
All right, how much longer do you estimate it's gonna take?
That's a really good question. It turns out that we have other things that interfere with our meeting. I don't know why that. People work, they have lives. So I was hoping that we would have it set by the beginning of January. I suspect we're gonna go into January now, just because of the way the holidays will interfere with it. But, yeah, we're in good shape because we started early enough, I think, to to get it in place before we absolutely needed to do so. So the steps are, obviously, we need to keep FiPAC in the loop. Mark and Bev will review this and will also get consultation from our bonding consultant about what what needs to be in, if there's
What's
things we need to
missing.
address,
Mark,
if there's things we need to address.
Mark, when do we actually, bottom line, need this done?
Before we go to bond, present to the
Okay.
bond issue.
Right, so we have-
We've got time.
Yeah.
So we
Okay,
have-
that's why,
we have
okay,
time,
okay.
But it's good to get it, and you don't wanna have it in place the day before you come for bonding.
No,
just
no,
like-
no, no, I mean, I was just kind of curious for like, what is the bottom line, like the latest date to get this thing done? I was just, we never really got to the.
Right,
And how does this become operative?
Becomes a guideline, as we do the budget.
No, but I mean, it's not a part of the charter, it's not voted by the town,
Does the board of
it's
selectmen
I
have-
think Board of Selectmen would
the board of selectmen.
adopted
ratify it
as
as
a
a
policy,
policy.
Right.
but this board would not.
No,
You would,
we,
you would ratify it and recommend it
to the board of
for
selectmen.
approval from the Board of Selectmen.
The board of selectmen, I think, votes on it.
Right.
So we recommend it to them, and they either yea or nay.
We did pick out parts that already existed within our town charter that coincided or in relation to this.
In line.
Yeah.
Yes, so that some of it does exist, but it's not in any comprehensive format. A lot of it we looked at as far as responsibility, authority, who has the authority and responsibility for making decisions of X amount of dollars and things along those lines. And there, a lot of that stuff we found out was in conversations that we had for the last, 4 years for me, but more for some of the other people. So it's not new stuff, it's just documenting it at the request of the bond consultants.
Right, and it is separating some of our practice into these categories that are the ones you're supposed to address. So some of it's practice, some of it's in the charter, some of it is new. One of the things that's in the charter that we are supposed to have a written 5-year capital improvement plan, which we do not do now, except for the lines in the budget presentation that we put together that say there's these expenditures planned, but there is no narrative that is associated with that, and there should be. So,
Didn't Jonathan do one of those, and then we kind of kept it?
Well, I do a narrative when I present
right, it's just,
what you're going to be discussing, there's a
Right.
whole just written on each capital.
It's in the presentation.
It's in the
Right, but it's a
presentation.
10-year plan that's like, this
It's
is
in
the
the
vision we're
presentation,
looking
it's
out.
not in
it's
our
not a plan,
final.
it's not just
The
listed as a
plan
plan.
just
Budget
lists the
document.
amounts, it doesn't justify what is actually telling you what the numbers are for, like
There's
say.
description.
Like you see, that there's a description, say they want a new say the fire department wants a new
Fire
truck.
fire engine, but it's not saying why, it's not saying what it's replacing or what the plan, it's like just a synopsis of what the money is planned for.
Most of that's verbal during
Yeah,
the
it's not
budget process.
writing where we know that, the engine's 10 years old.
You have a list of what we've authorized every year.
It just
Capital
puts in writing what we always do
Justification.
anyways.
Right, it's just the
Yeah.
Justification of why you're putting,
Yeah.
have it in the plan, like say hazardous trees. Well, our plan is that every year we're gonna cut down, 10 trees the next 10 years. Why? Because there's disease, there's, the drought, this and that, and it just kind of justifies, we have a written document. That's all.
Yeah, we just done it a different way.
But I just always thought that we had that 10-year plan, maybe it's not a formal, like, it's not blessed
Well,
by the universe
yeah.
document that
Exactly.
gets
That's,
updated every
that's all
time,
this
like-
is,
Right.
is a formal
Right,
plus
and it says
funding
5, and the
document
charter
that
only requires 5, so.
requires
Which is good.
whatever.
The fire department
that
goes
they
out
seem
20
to
years,
wanna have
some
on.
departments go out 10, some go
Yeah.
out 5.
Yeah.
Depending on how
But our-
real we want.
Our document shows up to pretty much 5, but it's just numbers, it's not.
Right. So, obviously, we don't want anything that's too restrictive. We don't need incredible detail, we don't need to consider all the possible things we might want. But we should probably have more narrative support for the numbers. So,
You'll get that.
okay.
All right, well, I want to thank you for your work on this policy, and the members of that committee.
And this is not like, we're giving you this, please review it, and it won't be done at all.
Well, no,
Right.
we're gonna take it home and read it and see where we're
Right,
at. And, okay.
Right, and if there's things that don't,
Wait for the next update.
and if you'd like to read policies from any other towns, we'd be happy to share them.
And if we have any questions, we'll share them.
Right,
Okay.
okay.
Thank you. Discussion regarding upcoming tri-board meeting for the 25-26 budget process.
Yes, so I had to put on the agenda, the board of trustees still need to set the date. Usually it's before the FiPAC meeting in December.
Which the FiPAC's on the 18th, so it'll be the floor select on the 17th meeting. But,
No, usually the tri-board is the same night as FiPAC, we've been doing that
so that'd
every
be the
year.
18th.
Which we could do it, but we're waiting for in the first Tuesday in December, they'll probably set the date, but if we're just have you put it on your calendar, if you're prepared, that there'll probably be the tri-board meeting that night. And then we'll follow the FiPAC meeting after, it's just to kick off the budget process and kind of see where everybody's at with their budgets and maybe if there's some information about capital, some preliminary capital, if we have more information on the HVAC project, well, we should know by that point,
well, the referendum is the night before.
the night before, so we have the,
It's on the
Gonna
same
be
day as
busy.
the
1, 2, 3.
Town selectmen meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll have to move the selectmen meeting. Won't be able to have it on 17th.
Well, you could do the referendum. Was the referendum over at 6 or 8 o'clock?
It was 6.
So does
I
the
think 12 to
referendum
6.
mean that you go in and vote, or is it just,
Yeah, you're right,
it's not a
we could have
town
a
meeting?
special
You can still have the board of selectmen meeting.
Yeah.
But it would be a
you go in,
vote.
so It'd be a tabulator, yes or no,
Okay.
up or down.
Do the usual folder all for votes, all the checkers and the
I'm
registrars
sure
and
it's
all
gonna
of
be a
that.
skeleton crew, it's not
You
gonna
won't
be.
need like an election, I don't think you're gonna have hundreds and hundreds of people. No,
You just prove you're a resident, that's all. All right. Transfers, I didn't see any.
None.
All right,
next time.
next meeting, December 18th, 2024.
Possible tribal.
Probably cut for.
Yep.
And we need to have that on board like we for the.
I move we adjourn.
I second.
Why,
I'm gonna
did it
go
start
watch UConn women around.
it? Did it
Oh.
start yet?
What?
What time is the
They
game?
start at 7. I'm
I
recording
second.
it.
So I'll
Are you
be-
recording it?
Yeah, so I'll be able to
Nobody-
go.
All
nobody-
right, did you, we're all set? We
All in favor, we're adjourned?
I.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned.